Hi, this is Dennis, and we're back with part 2 of the Penn Defiance 25 level wind that, we did a why did this reel fail issue, and now we're going to do the how to fix it. The parts just came in from mysticparts.com. As noted in the other video, there were several pieces that were needed. There's a line guide mechanism that is bent. There is a dog that is broken. So we got the dog, we got the line guide, and there's a free spool release spring that's broken. So I know I've mentioned this on more than one occasion, but should you need parts for Penn reels, mysticparts.com is a source that I use. They are an authorized Penn parts reseller, and well, they can take care of most of your needs. Okay, well, we got this, so let's just jump in. So the first thing, I think, because the first part is here, is this line guide, and I think we explained that when we were doing this, there is a E-clip on here and a plastic stop or hold fast, and I put them all back together again so that, well, I had to wait a couple of days for those parts. While I was waiting, I didn't want to forget just how that might work. With that off, we're going to take off our cap, and I got a replacement pawl. There was something going on in this reel. I don't know what it was, but I wanted to make sure that, well, if that damaged the pawl, that, well, I didn't do all this work for naught. So, and it does look like possibly there could be an issue with one of the forks on the pawl. So we'll just discard that pawl and go get the replacement pawl. There it is. I knew it was around here somewhere. And we'll reassemble that before we get into the pieces and parts. Well, I know I mentioned on part 1 of this that if you are interested in these types of videos, that I would really ask you to subscribe to the channel. I try to teach you what I know so that, well, when I can no longer do this, other people can. And, I'm trying to do skill transference. I'm trying to teach you what I know so that you can do it yourself and continue on with the art of service and reel repair. All right, the worm drive goes from the right-hand side. I think if I remember this correctly, we're going to have to take the worm gear out. Thread the shield through. Put that line guide over the top. Bring the shield all the way through. Bring your worm drive in from the other side. Make sure that that clears over here. I'm just trying to make sure we're in here. There we go. Little balancing act there. Then what we want to do is take this clamp, and there's an inset in the case for this clamp now. And then you have the groove sitting through for the E-clip. This requires some dexterity, but you can generally pull that E-clip in just like that. Once you do that, let's take the new pawl and the cap. Let's get this positioned. And that'll be part 1 of, well, the 3 or 4 problems that we identified with this reel. I only recommend hand threading these. You want to make sure that as you're doing this, that you do 2 things. First is that you catch the grooves in the worm gear. I think I pretty much have it now. I should be able to close this down and test it before you go any further. There's no sense closing up a reel if the the issues aren't resolved, if, for example, with binding. So, well, with that, we can take the side plate and put that back on. I'm going to oil the bearing on that one. I'm going to just do a superficial clean on the plastic idler arm, and you do not need to oil that plastic gear. That plastic gear is by its nature self-oiling. Just trying to locate the studs. There we go. This is for the top side of the reel. Alright, we did notice, or note when we were doing this, that there are two sets of screws. One set of screws is long, the other set of screws is short. These short screws belong on this side. I also recommended that you take pictures along the way because, well, something like this could happen. You're going to have to set the reel down for a while, maybe waiting for parts or something. And, well, the general thing is don't trust your memory with these because, well, from time to time they're all going to fail. Like right now, I have a memory failure here because the spool has got to go in before I can put this on. How do you like that? Alright, we can put a little bit of grease onto the back end of the spool. When we were doing our diagnosis, we noticed that all of the teeth that drive the worm gear are fine. These are sealed bearings, so you don't need to put oil or anything on them. Though, generally speaking, the oil will not go through, but if you want to just do that for fun, you can. Alright, let's try this again, resetting this. And if I'm off camera, I will apologize for that. There we go. Nice snap, which is what I was waiting for. Even a nicer snap. And now we can put those 3 screws in, 4 screws. These are rough threaded screws. You go into a plastic or a graphite case. Always good to go opposite corners when you're doing kind of even number screws like 4. Go high and go low, go north and go south. That way what you'll find is you'll keep the tension on the side plates correct. You won't have to worry about binding. Okay, well there should be one more screw around here. I imagine that eventually we will find that for the side plate. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. It's snuck into the other side. Alright, I keep a parts tray, as you know, and that parts tray helps me to, well, stay the course when it comes to the pieces and parts and knowing where to look for them. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to take the used parts. I always return those to my customers. Put that into a bag and we'll just set that aside for a moment so that we know that we've addressed that. Next thing we want to address is the need for this spring on the free spool. Just going to grab one of those springs. This spring has dual sides on it. Has a hook on both sides. You'll see it. One goes up, one goes down. That's because the one side mounts into this cavity, and the other side, well, let me just adjust this for a moment. The other side comes in from underneath. Sometimes you can sneak it in like this and kind of bring it around. What I prefer to do is to just remove this because obviously somebody had it removed and had it removed or had it mounted incorrectly. That hook on this belongs on the other side. One of our channel viewers just said, you know, when they walk and they look for reels at flea markets and the like, if they ever see one of these turned upside down like this one, it usually means that somebody was inside or there's more problems in that reel. He just keeps on walking. Well, you know what? I can't argue with that kind of a stance. Sometimes it's just a matter that the person couldn't align the little tags, so they kind of did the best they could. Sometimes it is an indication of further issues. This is the cavity that the one tag end of the piece goes. The other goes underneath. It's probably easier to put this one in first. Hold that, bring it into the cavity. Once you do that, press that in. Now you've got your spring on the one side, spring in the other cavity. Turn this over. I probably should put the side plate trim ring on now. Right. Here's what typically will happen. If it doesn't line up, I have it lined up because you can see there's an inner stud here in that track, so we're fine. But typically, if you can't do it the way I just did it, turn this a little bit till you find an even point. And when you find that even point, the balance, you can go ahead and put the screw back in. Well, we've got a functioning free spool lever now, and we will once this, knock that off. Makes a liar out of me, huh? As soon as we tighten this down, we'll have that functioning free spool lever. And while I'm doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave that in the comments section, I do try to answer those in the morning. I do try to help our viewers out if they're stuck on an issue. Maybe they're having an issue diagnosing what the problem is and so on in a particular reel. Maybe they're just looking for some of my experiences to see if I can't help them. And I'm happy to do that. But leave it in the comment section. I do try to do that in the morning. We should see a nice tension on this now. And that's going to move the yoke and jack up and down, in and out, and solve the problem we were having with the free spool release. That's the side plate. We have an anti-reverse dog issue, and we're going to rebuild the side plate now. So let me get that anti-reverse dog out of there. This is an old school anti-reverse dog. It has pinch fingers, one on each side. That's going to hold the click ring and stop the reel. All right, let's take the next steps here. And the next step starts with this click ring. The dog will mount to that. I just want to make sure I know which way it's going to mount. It's going this way. And you'll see these aren't 90 degrees, they're kind of insets. So this is going to come down on this side, and it's going to lock in to that inset like you can see there. It's the lower beak that's doing the locking in. We're going to invert that now, bring this around, set it onto the post for the anti-reverse dog, and then make sure that you are onto the post of the gear. All of that should go down a little bit. And now you'll see how this is going to work. You're going to be reeling away, you're going to be doing fine, and then friction, when you go to turn back, friction is going to pull that in and stop it. That's what we need to do there. We had the main gear. Up next, there's a small washer, and that washer is small because this wing here, if you had a larger washer, this wing would bump into that washer and curl up. Now, this one we know, for whatever reason, became problematic and split. So maybe that's one of the issues that was the cause of that, was perhaps an incorrect washer. We're going to take grease and put that onto the back of the jack. That jack seats here. There's a stud. That stud rides on the inside of that little channel there. Next up, we want to get the free spool yoke and pinion gear. I'm just checking on this pinion gear. Yeah, There's two sides on the pinion gear that have a slope. That's the back side. So we're going to put some grease onto the shoulder. The back side is also where the slotted side of the pinion gear goes. And we can load up on the grease in the teeth here. And that installs over the spool shaft and onto the posts, just like that. Now we can put our main gear and drag washers in. Make sure your main gear is clean. This one is. We went through that, I believe, in the earlier video, but we're doing it now as well. Show you how to clean the old grease and dirt out of the teeth. And then we're going to put a good amount of grease into the teeth of that as well. Mount your main gear. Make sure that it meshes nicely with your pinion gear. Then we have the drag washers. There's a drag washer with a large center. That's common to all of these. I almost thought I was going a bit crazy for a minute there. I needed the extra metal washer. Second drag washer. The middle drag washer is the eared washer. It has those two studs on each side. Kind of looks like a smiling face or something, and those look like the ears. That's why it's called an eared washer. They fit in the grooves inside the main gear. I'm putting these in dry. These are HT100 washers, and they have the capability of either being installed dried or, if you like, with some lubrication on it. And we have that little collar that goes next. All right, two more springs. These are the yoke springs, one on each post of the yoke. Now I have this pivot in the up position, and that's probably the next thing that becomes something to go kind of work on. When you go to install this now, you want to aim this stud for the slot on the top. So let's see if we can't do that. Well, I'm thinking I have it. I'm uncertain because we don't have a drag washer installed at the moment to tie this down. But instead of just kind of making sure, I'm going to eyeball this. Now I know I have it. I was looking in to see. And now we'll take the 4 screws. And I'm going to put the one that's up top here first because that's where that stud is. And these are the longer of the two sides from a screw standpoint. So I hope you were paying attention when we took them all apart, that the long ones went here. Okay, now you can kind of take the pressure off your fingers there. Do the same thing. Go opposite that one, kind of north, south, east, west again. Put screw number 2 in. And then choose a side, east or west is fine. You've got the tension relieved, if you will. You're not going to worry too much about the kind of torsion in the case getting in the way. All right. One more. This is the beauty of a parts tray. This wheel's been sitting about a week waiting for the parts. Well, we said the initial damage on this appeared to be some kind of a snag up where the wheel was used to kind of try and winch out of it. That's never a good idea. Next up is the bearing. And then we have these 4 beveled washers. They're they have a curve in them. Face the curve up on the first, down on the second, up on the third, face down again. And I think we got them backwards. We do. There's two different diameters of these. Make sure that you put the smaller ones in first. That'll give you the clearance so they won't press against that outer rim of the case. So let's do that again. Curve up, curve down. The bigger ones, curve up, curve down. Now, if you had any question about that, you can go to the schematic. The schematic will show you that in more detail and solve any issues you may have had in question. Let's bring this in. We're going to tighten this down, make sure that that free spool is doing what it should now. We should have a turning reel. Oh, we have an over-tightened spool adjuster. All right, and then go into free spool. So that means that we have the stud from our free spool release set correctly. All right, next up then is the handle. And this little washer with the rectangle goes before the handle. Kind of stops that adjuster. Cap nut goes next. Again, hand thread these. It's easy to make that mistake. That it's very costly if you try to over tighten it with a wrench. 12mm wrench. Align the flat side of this to be perpendicular to your tie-down hold, and most of the time this will align the hole for your set screw. Well, in this case it didn't. Alright, so get the point on the nut to point to the hole, and then you'll get it. Didn't do it yet. Patience is everything when it comes to reel repair. Don't expect everything to just kind of land all the time. Just take your time. Don't force anything. And well, here's the last set screw, and then we'll be able to do a test. Alright, so we're going to publish this video as part 2, and we're also going to publish this video as a full service. So either way that you're watching this, if you want to see part 1, it will be combined with the earlier version. Part 1 and part 2 will make a full service of this reel, and if you want to watch it that way, you can in the future for a reference, or if you were just hanging on the edge of your seat wondering whatever happened to that Defiance with the issues of the free spool, the anti-reverse, and the line guide, well, now you know the answer to that question and you can move on. Alright, final test. We're going to put it in free spool. We saw earlier that this free spool is nice and easy. This is a spool adjuster. If you want it to spin easier, just back it off. It will move quicker. So set it to your requirement. Go into gear now. That's a nice, smooth, easy, high-speed reel that just is back getting a second chance to go fishing again. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed working on it and sharing that with you. And, well, I want to take a moment to thank our police, fire, safety, and rescue folks for everything it is that they do, and to wish you great fishing. Thank you for watching, and, well, best days on the water. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.